you might come over for the day, or you're just not going to come?
I'm sorry.
You might come over for a day for things, or
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, if there's something on there that's,
So you could get on the ferry and come over.
I'll just get on the ferry and come over. If there's something there that's of, you know, pretty pertinent, okay?
Yeah.
Let's see, we got Todd here again.
Yeah. Maybe the same reasons. Good evening and welcome. Thank you. I'd like to call our regular meeting of council for Wednesday, June 21st, 2017 to order. And it is what they call Nationally Aboriginal Day. And next year, I think we're going to call it National Indigenous Peoples Day, but on our way. But it is a time to recognize our neighbors, the Sechelt Nation, and also to acknowledge that the district of Sechelt is entirely on the unceded territory of the Sechelt Nation. And we've been honored repeatedly for since 1846 to be welcomed onto their territory. And District of Sechelt wants to recognize the protocol that was signed in 2014 on reconciliation. With that, I'd turn to the adoption of the agenda and see if there's first a motion to adopt as circulated. Councillor Mueller, Councillor Lutz. Any additions or deletions? And we have one correspondent, corporate officer on 12.1.
Prior to adoption or voting on adoption, staff requests that we replace the 12.1 that council's been handed out tonight with the 12.1 that's on the agenda now. In essence, just because the report on the agenda is incomplete, and there's some additional resolutions that need to come out of close that are on the one I handed out.
Okay, so more complete documentation, but the order stays the same. So 12.1, release of closed meetings items, will have a little bit more to it when we get there. And I understand when we get to 10.1, the BC bike race, there's a typographical error at the very end of that report. In the draft, they had identified the two bylaws that were relevant for review, but they're not with us. The bylaws were not added to the agenda either. Any other additions or deletions? With those notes, all those in favor of adoption? Thank you, that's carried. And there are no appointments or delegations this evening, and there are no proclamations. So we move to the adoption of the minutes of the previous council meetings. First, the one-page minutes from the 3 p.m. meeting of June 7th, 2017. A motion to receive and adopt. Councillor Seegers and Councillor Shanks seconding. All those in favor? And that's carried. And then moving to the regular council meeting of Wednesday, June 7th, 2017. A motion to receive. Councillor Seegers and Lutz. Any errors or omissions in those? Councillor Seegers.
Thank you. On page 7, number 6 at the top, it indicated a council liaison be appointed. I thought we actually addressed who that was going to be.
Page 6, page 7.
That's for the Integrated Community Sustainability Plan. Yeah, right.
It's under business rising. Okay, page 7 of our agenda, page 3 of the report.
No, but I thought the motion was that we appointed Councillor Shanks and Councillor Mueller to that.
Yeah, as the chair and the alternate. Yeah.
Right, to
so
that.
The chair of the planning was the liaison. That was the whole point of bringing it back.
Yes.
Was to get their names in there.
And then under 7.1, in the italics where it says register a restrictive covenant, I believe it's place, not plan. Kosian Place.
Oh, yes. And we corrected the under, so they left the strike through there so you can see.
Page 9. This is minor, but it's under recommendation 8, there's just 2 C's. That's nothing major. There's a couple other smaller grammatical things, but
Okay, if they're smaller than that one,
Yeah.
then we can just let staff know, but
yeah.
certainly the first two are important to note.
And then I'd like to pull recommendation number,
These are minutes,
yes,
so maybe
recommendation.
under business arising, but you don't pull out anything from a minutes.
Okay, so then under recommendation number 13 with trellis, I had requested that my vote be recorded on that, and it wasn't. So that would be an amendment.
Okay. So let's find that. That page was. What was the
Page
on
11.
that? Page 11, recommendation number 13. It says defeated.
Yes.
What's the protocol on that? So opposed. Okay, one opposed to be noted.
Thank
Okay.
you. That's all.
And the name, of course. It's not one in favor. We'll get the right wording when we get.
Yes, because the prevailing side was to defeat, there was one opposed to defeating. That's what Councillor Seegers wishes to have recorded, that she
Okay.
did not agree with the vote.
Yeah,
The
we'll
final
just,
vote.
we'll just check on the language. I'm not sure if I want somebody opposed to a defeated motion, but we'll, whatever's correct for parliamentary purposes.
Yes.
Anything else in the minutes of June 7th? With those notes and amendments suggested, a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Councillor Seegers, Councillor Lutz, and all in favor? That's carried. Now, any business arising from those minutes? There being no business arising, I'll look then to item 7 and 7.1, which is our minutes of the Finance, Culture and Economic Development Committee of Wednesday, June 14th. First, a motion to receive. Thank you, Councillor Lutz and Councillor Wright. Any errors or omissions in that and any of those items that need to be pulled before we look for adoption? Councillor Seegers.
Thank you. On the bottom of page 19, second last bullet, it says the current arts festival producers could become board members of the existing societies to provide leadership and guidance while maintaining the charitable status needed to access additional funding. I believe it is that they would need to become board members. The conversation was such that in the funding parties had indicated that if there was some continuity with board members from the current festival organization with the new group, that they could then continue on with their status. So it's not that they could be, they would need to be to maintain the access to the additional funding.
Yeah, there's actually three thoughts in that
All
bullet,
combined.
and the one of them that Councillor Seegers is speaking to isn't actually there. So they don't have charitable status, but they need to have enough of the current festival members on the new board to maintain their status as an existing organization and therefore be eligible for the Canada Heritage Funds and others. Plus, they need to be allied with somebody who has charitable status. Plus, they could provide leadership and guidance. So we'll just reword that one. Any other items in those minutes? If no other errors, I'll look then for a motion for council to adopt recommendations 1 through 5. Councillor Seegers, thank you, and Councillor Lutz. All those in favor? That's carried. And then we move to the first business item today under bylaws. For first reading, we have an item on Habitat for Humanity. So first, a motion to receive the report from Aaron Thompson, Councillor Shanks, and Councillor Wright. All those in favor? And I'll turn to Mr. Thompson for his report. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So here we are looking at the zoning bylaw amendment for Habitat for Humanity. Here's the subject property in Wilson Creek. You can see here with the star just to the east of Chapman Creek and to the west of Field Road, Canadian Tire, etc. So what this proposal is to apply for a zoning bylaw amendment to allow for two-family residential development with an educational / classroom component. This is the use that's already been existing on site and was previously with temporary use permits. And this bylaw amendment will allow for the development to be completed. Here's the site as it was shown approved in a development permit in 2012. You can see the various duplex units. So these units here are completed. There's currently a building permit out for these units here. And here's the location of the Quonset hut, which is being used as the classroom fabricating area for the students who work on the site building the homes. And it will eventually have be replaced by a duplex unit. So a bit more about the property. It's currently zoned R4. The proposed zoning is a new zone R2A. The current OCP designation is for multifamily mixed residential. It does fall within development permit area 2 for watercourse hazard. And as previously mentioned, the development permit was previously issued for both the 7 building, 14 unit development, as well as those geotechnical concerns related to that flood hazard. And also, as briefly alluded before, there was previously the temporary use permit issued in 2008 and a temporary use permit issued in 2012, which allowed for this educational component to exist on the site. And those permits have now expired, leading us to look at this rezoning to allow it to continue. So yeah, as I mentioned, currently 4 out of the 7 buildings are constructed. And as well, Habitat Humanity is currently working with Chapman Creek Holdings to redevelop the highway access to include turning lanes to improve safety along this stretch of Highway 101 by having a dedicated turning lane. So I'm just going over briefly what the R2A zone actually entails. So the uses differ a bit from the R2 zone, as that it allows both the two-family dwellings, which the R2 zone does allow, but also has this accessory educational component. So this allows for accessory educational purposes, such as this trades program being run on the site in conjunction with development of the site, but wouldn't allow for, say, someone to open up a school there and function as, say, a private school, a college, or something like that. As well as, of course, is the typical accessory uses, customarily incidental and subordinate to a two-family dwelling. The density is taken from the OCP at 22 units per hectare. Their proposal is far below that. The lot coverage is 40%, same as the R2 zone. The maximum height's 10.5 meters, same as the R2 zone. The lot area minimum is 1,000 square meters, same as the R2 zone. Minimum lot width, 20 meters, same as the R2 zone. And the setbacks, same as the R2 zone, are 5 meters rear and front and 3 meters side. So the recommendation is that zoning bylaw number 25/1987, amendment bylaw number 25/287, 2017, Habitat for Humanity be given first reading, as well based on the request from Habitat for Humanity, the fact that this proposal is consistent with the OCP, and this use has been existing on the site for several years already. It's also recommended that the public hearing for the zoning bylaw amendment be waived in accordance with section 464 of the Local Government Act, which still does require notice to affected landowners as well as notice in the paper, but does not require an actual public hearing to be held. And if council wishes to waive the public hearing, it could also proceed with giving the bylaw second reading as well. However, third reading will need to wait until the notification happens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any clarifications or comments on the report? Councillor Seegers?
Thank you. Could we see that drawing again? So currently on the drawing, it's showing access from the rear lane. In your report, you indicate that they intend to come back and request a change to that development permit then?
Correct.
Once the access from Highway 101 is approved or comes forward for approval with Ministry of Transport?
We do have the development permit application, and we are processing at the moment. And that will go forward to, of course, the planning committee once we have received some of those things. But yes, it will need to, of course, be approved by the Ministry of Transportation as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other clarifications? Could you walk me through the educational component a little bit more? Is it because of the longevity of the education there? I mean, the construction crews in the secondary schools have been building garages and garden sheds and various things on people's homes for 20 years. So if they come to my home and spend 3 to 4 weeks of June putting in a garden shed, I wouldn't need a temporary use permit. I'd need building permits and all of those things, but not an educational component. What makes this one different?
Well, there is both that classroom use, so people are learning it. It's not just the construction on there. As well, there was, of course, the temporary use permits that were issued before. So those, at that time at least, were as well considered that enough that they weren't in the use of the building and the use of the site. So it's kind of continuing that train of thought as well.
Okay. And it doesn't set up as you said earlier, there won't be anyone opening up a private school or a college. It's not a new school zone, which would be a public assembly zone. Okay. Can I have somebody move recommendation 2 and, well, let's do them in order. Recommendation 2 is that we give first reading. Councillor Seegers, Councillor Mueller, all those in favor. And this recommendation 3 is waiving the public hearing. Councillor Mueller and Councillor Shanks, and to speak to that, Councillor Mueller.
I just wanted to provide comment on this particular one because it's the first time that we've ever waived a public hearing since I've been on council, and I think it's important to note that I know why we're waiving it in this case, and I'm comfortable with the reasons given. This is an organization that receives widespread community support. They've been operating in this capacity for a number of years without complaint. And this really allows their work to continue in the way that it has. And so I'm comfortable with this. We haven't received any complaint to date on it, so I'm happy with that. Thanks.
I don't know if I've seen a waiver of a public hearing in my time on council either, so. Thanks for adding that, because it is unusual. Any other discussion of recommendation on the floor? All those in favor? That's carried. And then move recommendation number 4, Councillor Seegers, and then Councillor Wright, that we give second reading. All those in favor? That's carried, so let's go and do that work. First, item 8.1b, which is the bylaw. Bylaw number 25287-2017, Habitat for Humanity. I'll just read the full title. A bylaw to amend District of Sechelt zoning bylaw number 25, 1987 by rezoning a property in the Wilson Creek neighborhood from R4 residential 4 zone to a new R2A residential 2A zone to permit a residential duplex development with educational uses. First reading is moved by Councillor Seegers and Councillor Wright. All those in favor? That's carried. And we did resolve to waive public hearings, so I'll look for a motion to read a second time. Councillor Lutz and Councillor Mueller. Any discussion at second reading? Any proposed amendments? All those in favor of second reading? That's carried. Thank you for that work, and that'll come back to us at next council for the third and fourth readings. Moving then to our business items, the BC bike race is item 10.1, and we have a report from our parks supervisor. So first, a motion to receive the report, Councillor Seegers and Lutz. All those in favor? It's a fairly straightforward report, and the parks supervisor isn't here, so I imagine there's no one to speak to it. We'll assume we've read it. And the recommendation is quite straightforward, that council waive the provision of the District of Sechelt Public Places bylaw to allow BC Bike Race to set up a campsite at Kinnikinnick Park for 2017, 2018, and 2019. Councillor Seegers makes the motion. Councillor Wright seconds it. Any discussion of the motion? Councillor Seegers.
Thank you. I noticed on page 37. It indicates at the top, talks about a nonprofit charge. I did review their website. It doesn't say anything about their status, so I think we should just check to see that they are actually a nonprofit before we, determine which way to charge them. Thank you.
I think we've looked at that before, and they may not be. And Councillor Mueller.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to speak briefly in support of our support of this event. I've spoken regularly in support of Sechelt events. I think this one is another one where it's region-wide. It's fantastic. I think it's one of a kind for bike enthusiasts. Over the years, Sechelt has become more and more of a destination for bikes and bike races and mountain bike enthusiasts. And I think this is just one more way that we can continue that trend and help this continue to be successful in the years ahead.
Thank you. And I'm glad that Kinnikinnick worked well enough for them last year that they'll look for a 3-year profile, because they used to camp across the street. That worked well, but Kinnikinnick is probably good. So it's in front of us. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you for that. And item 10.2, Sechelt Recreation Service and Sechelt Innovations Limited. First, a motion to receive the report from our corporate officer, Councillor Seegers and Councillor Lutz. Seconded. All those in favor? And would you like to speak briefly to this, please? Corporate officer. Yeah, you had it on.
It's not good. Thank you, Your Worship. As set out in this report, this is an item for Council to consider removing and electing new directors to two of its companies, that being Sechelt Recreation Service Ltd. and Sechelt Innovations Ltd. It's required that every year, to keep these two companies in good standing, that we file annual reports. And since the 3 directors that are currently appointed are no longer associated with Sechelt, staff is recommending that you appoint the 3 directors shown there. We've prepared a draft unanimous resolution of the sole shareholder to accomplish this for each company, and they're before council to consider endorsing, at which point we will forward to our solicitors to include with our annual report filing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Seegers moves the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Wright. Any discussion? Fairly straightforward. All of those in favor? That's carried unanimously. And 10.3. First, a motion to receive the report. Councillor Lutz, Councillor Seegers. All those in favor? And that was to receive the report from the Director of Finance. Does the Finance Officer want to speak to it, or just do the next one, which is receive? Okay, explain what it is. That's probably good.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, this is the annual filing of the Statement of Financial Information as required under the Financial Information Act. It details all remuneration paid to employees of the district, details those that earn $75,000 or more, and as well as the expenses paid on behalf of those employees. Also included this report are payments to vendors, and with details provided for any vendor that received payments in excess of $25,000 in 2016.
Thank you. And we've received it. Any discussion? Councillor Seegers.
Thank you. On page 45, it has the remuneration for elected officials. And I know that once this gets out in the public, they're going to ask, why are we all paid a different amount? Or why is it indicating we're all paid a different amount?
Yes.
Could you please explain that?
Certainly, Your Worship. The remuneration doesn't just include the stipend received by councillors or the wage by councillors, also includes taxable benefits as well. And each of you have elected to receive different levels of benefits. Some have elected for some have elected not to receive some. Also, due to the age of some councillors, some are beyond requiring a CPP and other benefits. So it's really just a difference in the benefit side of things that's caused the difference in remuneration.
Okay. So a councillor with significant group benefits, including family, medical, and things of that nature, would be higher than somebody who had no group benefits whatsoever and perhaps no pension contributions.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Any other, Councillor Mueller?
Yes, I have a question about the statement of payments made for provision of goods and services. On that list, we have a number of individuals listed, and I'm just curious, looking at the upper portion of the report, where it lists remuneration and expenses, if expenses are also included in that statement of payments.
No, in the contractor's report, so you refer to the contractor side, it would all be private contractors, no remuneration in there. So some may have worked as contracted employees, if that's what you're referring to. But.
Yeah, my question was related to, I'm aware that many of the individuals listed here were our contractors. Some of these numbers are a little higher than I expected, and I was wondering if they include expenses.
It could do, because they would have invoiced us based on the contract provisions we had with them. So yes, it would have included those expenses.
Yeah, it's the total amount that we've remitted to those companies, regardless of what, and some might be consulting fees, some might be travel expenses, some might be expenses incurred in doing the work, if it's an engineering firm. Is that right?
That's correct.
It's a total amount that's remitted to them.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? So we've received the report, we've asked some questions, and I think we should move the second recommendation that the statement of financial information reports be received. Councillor Seegers and Councillor Lutz, all those in favor? That's carried. It's always the most interesting reading of the year. Moving then to reports from councillors. I'll start on my left with Councillor Shanks, if you don't mind, and we'll look for reports. Councillor Shanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Your Worship. Not a heavy number of meetings to attend, but on June the 12th, I attended the Downtown Business Association Board of Directors meeting. June the 14th, I attended the Davis Bay Community Association meeting, and there was a presentation by an individual from the Elder College. And after that presentation, because they're looking for people to run some informative classes, I offered to give a course on understanding your property assessment and taxes.
Good, good, good.
Which I thought took a lot of guts. Anyway, I'm to see whether or not the committee that selects who will be giving presentations takes me up on my offer. June the 20th, I attended the Downtown Business Association executive meeting, specifically to address the topic of the District of Sechelt liaison person and what surrounds that particular position. Unfortunately, there was only 3 members of the executive that showed up, so I may have to do my presentation again. June 20th, I attended the Coasters Car Club monthly meeting, and they are gearing up, of course, to have their car show on the weekend of August the 11th and 12th. Also attended on June the 18th, the Kinsman Father's Day car show down at Ducal Park, whereupon I was awarded a second place trophy for my entry into that car show. A vehicle which I've recently purchased, and other people informed me, which the previous owner has taken to many shows and never received a trophy. Oh. So I'm waiting till that individual gets back from holidays so I can pass that information along. That's all I have, Your Worship.
Thank you for that report. You must have polished the new car. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. Attended an appreciation evening from Elder College, and it was an entertaining evening. It was a wine and cheese party. Attended a part of the Ocean Day event, spent about an hour and a half there. And my congratulations to the people that put that forward. Went to the Downtown Business Association meeting. Attended Finance Committee. Also went to the Davis Bay Community Association meeting. And then I decided I'd go to the Advisory Planning Committee meeting, and that was very entertaining. And then I'd like to offer my apologies to the board for the Sunshine Coast Community Foundation granting ceremony. I wanted to get to that ceremony, but unfortunately, when I got the email, I was in Vancouver for a bunch of medical appointments, and I didn't get back till almost 7:30, so I couldn't get changed and get up there for it, so my apologies to them. I missed that, and I would like to have been there. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you for that report. And Councillor Seegers?
Thank you. It was a slow couple of weeks for me. I attended the Seniors Planning Table wrap-up meeting and the Coast Community Builders Association Home Show. Very well attended again this year. There were about over 1,500 people that attended. A couple of our staff came through. And then I attended, along with Councillor Inkster, he's not here this evening, but he also attended the Coast Community Investment Co-op meeting in Gibsons. It's an organization that's been set up to allow residents, locals, to invest in local businesses and get some very substantial returns compared to what you'd actually get sitting in the bank account. And then I had an opportunity to attend the multicultural event. Hasn't been held for a number of years, very well attended, and they explored various aspects of the different cultures that actually abide in our community here. So kudos to that group, and I look forward to the event again next year. That's my report.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Mueller?
Yes, thank you. Along with the other council meetings, was not a particularly busy couple weeks. The highlight for my last couple weeks was, of course, being taken a part of and having the honor to open our first ever Oceans Day in Sechelt. I think the event was fantastic. It was, I'm not going to say it was heavily attended. It was well attended, specifically by the kids. There was fantastic kids activities planned by our coordinator, and they really took to it and really got into it. I thought that was probably one of the highlights of it. In these coming years, we're going to be planning additional Oceans Days, of course, and everybody's really excited about it. I think this particular event has a lot of potential for Sechelt, and the more people that get involved, the better it will be. This year, most of what was represented there was the conservation associations and related conservation interest groups. That, of course, is a big focus for Oceans Day, but in the future we have lots of opportunity to bring in as many of the ocean-related businesses and other types of groups in Sechelt that just want to get down and celebrate our waterfront, and look forward to that in the years ahead. Thanks.
Thank you for that report. And Councillor Lutz?
Thank you. I too attended Finance and Culture meeting, a night at the Longhouse, which there were the BC 150 plus canoeists in attendance. I did get to attend the Community Futures granting and was very impressed with the projects that are coming forward. And you'll see more about that in the local papers, I'm sure. Over the past 6 weeks or so, I've been having discussions with members in our community regarding the hope to have a placement of a marker for Day of Mourning here in Sechelt. Day of Mourning began back in 1984 with the Canadian Labour Congress, and it was officially proclaimed by the federal government in 1990 with the passing of the Workers' Mourning Day Act. And on April 28th of 91, it was then proclaimed a National Day of Mourning. Locally, the Sunshine Coast Labour Council has erected a marker at Kinsman Park in Gibsons and have held ceremonies there for a number of years. Many in our community would like a marker in Sechelt. So with council's indulgement, I would really like to pass a motion asking that staff bring forward a report on an appropriate location for a day of mourning marker. So I'd like to move that.
And a seconder? Let me see, a second right away. Any discussion or elaboration? Councillor Mueller?
I think that's a fantastic proposal. We know that every single year there are workers passing away, not only in Sechelt, but around the province. It happens far too often, and definitely a marker to remember that and reflect on it. It would be fitting.
Any other comments? Councillor Wright?
Thank you, Your Worship. I seconded the motion, and I'd like to speak a little bit about it. I don't know whether I'm partially responsible for Councillor Lutz putting the motion forward or not. At the day of mourning that we attended in Gibson, I said to her, I'm getting tired of coming to Gibson for this ceremony. I said, why don't we have one in the Sechelt? So I don't know whether that had any influence on it or not. But anyway, I do think it's a great idea to honor those people who have passed away in industrial accidents within the country. Thank you.
You shouldn't have to die at work, no. But those that do, we should honor. Yep. Unfortunately, we thought it was going to go away as we moved from a resource and industrial coal mining and forestry, which is probably the most dangerous occupation, but there's lots of occupations now, including health and education, where violence in the workplace and early untimely death is a factor. So we should try and do that. So I think if there's no further discussion, I'll just call the question. All those in favor? That's carried, and we'll look forward to the staff assisting with that. My report, I wanted to briefly reiterate the comments on Multiculturalism Day. It has been an absence. I didn't know why. I got there for the 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock period, and it was still well attended and a good event. That was on a Friday. The next day was the Sechelt Garden Club's 50th anniversary, and they had an event in the Seaside Centre, which was a good event and one of the friendliest associations I've walked into for a long time. And they obviously enjoy each other's company as much as they enjoy working and learning about plants. Sechelt Garden Club has done a lot of work with the district over the years, whether it be Rockwood, whether it be the ocean walls. There's some walls behind the aquatic center, and they were also the first ones who were initiated Sechelt joining the Cities in Bloom efforts, which we did for a few years ago. So that was an important marker, 50 years of community associations. And we know from our own experience, but we also know from lots of research that those communities who have longstanding and multiple neighborhood associations, community associations, churches that are healthy and vibrant have much higher levels of community health, trust, and a better civil society. So we want to encourage those when we can. Sunday was another community, and it was the Pride Day at Mission Park and the Little Pride Parade, which is along Davis Bay Road to Mission Park, and that was also very well attended, I think larger than last year. And for those that are interested, we didn't raise a Pride flag at the beginning of the week. The Pride community hadn't been organized, and they wanted to be part of it if we did raise a flag. So we've actually organized that for Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. If any councillors or other community members would like to join for that, they're inviting a number of the youth that are in the queer community. And our MLA will actually be in town that day, so he's going to join us. And we'll raise the flag at 3 p.m. on Friday. So welcome to join that and show some support and solidarity for those that have a choice that puts them where we have to recognize diversity and difference in the world. I also wanted to take a little bit longer to talk about the model that's sitting in the table and desk in front of Mr. Thompson. And with the talk in the local newspapers about 3 or 4 weeks ago about the need for a new municipal hall or perhaps a library could move into this one. And there was a retired architect in West Sechelt, Mr. Meyer, who took it upon himself to design a municipal hall and what it might look like and what it would be good. Because he says sometimes something in 3 dimensions will allow people to actually understand what's needed and how it might look. Now, it may not be the one that's tendered and moved forward, but he put a fair amount of work into it, and the CAO and I went to visit him. And he's also prepared 2 small booklets which talk about construction and quality and design factors. But he's really proposing a new municipal hall design which will enhance the downtown of Sechelt and create a focal point. Creates more space for us, and of course would allow the library to use the 2nd floor here. And creates a centerpiece where pedestrians can relax and move through. And you'll notice it's actually a 2-3-story building, but the 1st story is entirely open with a center inside, a park inside of that. So I invite you to take a look at it at the end of the meeting, and if the YouTube cameras can scroll over there, I don't know if they can or not, they can see it. But it's a great human interest story and a great contribution by Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Yates and I were both quite taken with his discussion. So I thought I'd bring it out to the public and let you see what some of our citizens are thinking and what they could suggest. Multiculturalism, pride, Sechelt Garden, Oceans Day, I think we got all of those. Moving on to item 11.2 is the SCRD board report, and our council representative is not with us this evening, so there will be no report from the SCRD. 12.1, release of closed meeting items, and this was the one that had additional documentation added. So a motion to receive and into open meeting the resolutions associated with that report. Councillor Seegers, Councillor Mueller, all those in favor. And the documents involved are a biosolids composting agreement, which needed to be modified because it had ended its term, and the regional spelling mistake economic development agreement and MOU and the agreement for that. I think it's been public in Gibson's and perhaps in the SCRD, but this is the first time that it's been available at the District of Sechelt. (12.2) A motion to receive the Sechelt visitor statistics. Councillor Seegers, Councillor Wright, all those in favor. Any discussion of those statistics? And this is for the month of May. Seeing no discussion, I'll move on to the 12.3 RCMP statistics. A motion to receive. Councillor Lutz and Councillor Seegers second. Any discussion of those? And then moving on to council correspondence, which is item 12.4. We have 8 items to receive. Motion to receive, Councillor Seegers and Councillor Lutz. All those in favor? And any items on that agenda that you'd like to pull out for specific discussion? Councillor Seegers.
Thank you. On page 70, we have a letter there from Habitat for Humanity. I believe staff is already dealing with this, and we'll be coming forward with a report.
That is correct, Your Worship. There'll be a report at the next council meeting to deal with this issue.
Okay, thank you. Any other items that people would like to discuss?
I have. Thank you.
Councillor Seegers has another. And Councillor Wright? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. Will there be a response to item number 8?
Staff is processing it, but I don't think they have any particular response. Do you want to discuss that item?
No, I don't want to discuss. I just wanted to know that there's going to be a response forwarded to them.
Yeah. They have had some discussion, but it's been informal at this point, and there will be a response from staff on it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion on that? And Councillor Seegers? Anything else on the council correspondence items 1 through 8? Call for nominations from UBCM if anyone has aspirations to serve on the provincial body. No emergency items. I'd look for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Seegers, Councillor Lutz, all those in favor? That's carried. We're adjourned. It's 7:45. Pam, and then we'll look for other questions.
Nice soft spot.